Tonight on Capitol Hill, what was supposed to be a routine confirmation hearing turned into a sharp and revealing examination of experience, readiness, and the stakes of civilian control over the world's most powerful military. As lawmakers questioned Pete Hegseth's fitness to serve as Secretary of Defense.
Distinguished ranking member.
Just a point of personal privilege to make a correction. The reason that General Austin required a waiver was not because of his participation in a corporate enterprise. It was because he did not have 7 years of interruption between his service and his appointment. Second point is that if any of us were appointed as Secretary of Defense, we would be subject to the same types of questions. And the case in point is Senator John Tower was nominated for Secretary of Defense. It was discovered by his colleagues that his behavior was not commensurate with the responsibilities despite his service, and he was voted down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Duckworth, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, Secretary Matters had to have this waiver as well. Mr. Hegseth, this hearing is about whether you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And one of the qualifications, to answer my colleague's question, is to actually win the votes of every member of this committee and to be confirmed by the United States Senate. And you need to convince us that you're worthy of that vote, because the people of the state of Illinois voted for me to be their senator so that I could cast that vote when it comes to picking who is going to be the next Secretary of Defense. This hearing now seems to be a hearing about whether or not women are qualified to serve in combat, and not about whether or not you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And let me just say that the American people need a SecDef who's ready to lead on day one. You are not that person. Our adversaries watch closely during times of transition, and any sense that the Department of Defense that keeps us safe is being steered by someone who's wholly unprepared for the job puts America at risk, and I am not willing to do that. With that in mind, Mr. Hegseth, I want you to try to explain to the American people, this committee, who have to vote for you, and to our troops who are deployed around the world, why you are qualified to lead the Department of Defense. We already know that you've only led the largest, a 200-person organization. We already know that you so badly mangled a budget that after you left, they had to bring in a forensic accountant to figure out what went wrong. And that the largest budget you ever managed was about $18 billion. You know, that is about 51,560 times lower than the Department of Defense budget of $825 billion. $16 million is 51,568 times smaller than the defense budget. Please describe to me, Mr. Hegseth, you talk about DOD passing an audit. Please describe to me a time or an organization when that you led underwent an audit, because you say you're going to hire smarter people than you to run this audit. I'm not asking you to be an accountant. I want you to be able to tell me what kind of guidance will be given to those employees, what will happen if, whether or not you pass that audit. Have you led an audit of any organization, yes or no? I don't want a long answer, yes or no. Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no, did you lead an audit?
And the way my leadership has been stated,
yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator, every
yes or
part
no?
of my leadership
yes
of these organizations
yes
has
or
been
no,
misrepresented.
I will take that as a no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. What we expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary to outfit our warfighters. Look, the Secretary of Defense is required to make quick decisions every single day that, well, with high-level information that's being provided for them. A Secretary of Defense has to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Right now, I am concerned that you have neither. Mr. Hegseth, what is the highest level of international negotiations that you have engaged in, that you have led in? Because the Secretary of Defense does lead international security negotiations. There are three main ones that the Secretary of Defense leads and signs. Can you name at least one of them?
Could you repeat the question, Senator?
Sure. What is the highest level of international security agreement that you have led? And can you name some that the Secretary of Defense would lead? There's three main ones. Do you know?
I have not been involved in international security arrangements because I have not been in government other
Okay.
than serving in the military. So my job has been to
So no, the
lead
answer is no.
men
Can
and
you
women
name
in
one of the
combat.
3 main ones that the
If you're
Secretary
talking
of
about
Defense
defense
signs?
arrangements, I mean, NATO might be one that you're referring to.
Status of Forces Agreement would be one of them.
Status of forces agreement. I've been a part of teaching
So-
about status of forces agreements.
But you don't
inside
remember to mention
Afghanistan.
it? You're not qualified, Mr. Hegseth. You're not qualified. You talk about repairing our defense industrial complex. You're not qualified to that. You could do acquisition and cross-servicing agreements, which essentially are security agreements. You can't even mention that. You've done none of those. You talked about the Indo-Pacific a little bit, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. Can you name the importance of at least one of the nations in the ASEAN, and what type of agreement we have with at least one of those nations? And how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
I couldn't tell you the exact
No, you
amount of
couldn't,
nations in
because you've
that,
not
but I
even
know we have
bothered to
allies
do-
in South Korea and Japan and in AUKUS with Australia, and trying to work
Okay.
on submarines with them.
Mr.
and data
Hegseth,
transfers
none
with
of those
them.
countries
We
are
have
in
allies
ASEAN.
across.
None of those 3 countries that you've mentioned are in ASEAN. I suggest you do a little homework before you prepare for these types of negotiations. Listen, Mr. Hegseth, we ask our troops to go into harm's way all the time. We ask them to go into harm's way. And this behind me is a copy of the Soldier's Creed, a copy that usually hangs over my desk here in the Senate, and you should be familiar with it. It's the same copy that hung over my desk at Walter Reed every single day that I woke up and fought my way back because I wanted to go back and serve next to my buddies who'd saved my life. This same copy, these words are repeated over and over and over again. And let me read out 2 things to you, 2 sentences. I will always place the mission first, and I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior task. Mr. Hegseth, our troops follow these words every single day, and they man up and they pack their rucksacks and they go to war. And they deserve a leader who can lead them, not a leader who wants to lower the standards for himself or raising the standards for other people. And by the way, our troops already meet the standards. We ask troops to man that ship, fight that fire, fly that helicopter until their very last breath. And they do that every single day. They cannot be led by someone who's not competent to do the job. How can we ask these warriors to train and perform the absolute highest standards when you are asking us to lower the standards to make you the Secretary of Defense simply because you are buddies with our president-elect? And by the way, he has filed for bankruptcy 6 times. I'm not quite sure he's the kind of CEO you want to refer to as a successful businessman. Let me make it clear. You can't seem to grasp that there is no U.S. military as we know it without the incredible women that we serve. Women who've earned their place in their units. You have not earned your place as Secretary of Defense. You say you care about keeping our armed forces strong and that you like that our armed forces are meritocracy, then let's not lower the standards for you. You, sir, are a no-go at this station.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth.
The exchange exposed far more than personal disagreements. It laid bare a fundamental question facing the Senate and the country. What qualifications truly matter when the job involves command over a budget nearing $1 trillion and responsibility for millions of service members worldwide? If you value clear, fact-based breakdowns of moments like this, make sure to subscribe now so you don't miss our continuing coverage. The hearing opened with a clarification that set the tone. A senior member corrected the record on why General Lloyd Austin required a waiver to become Secretary of Defense. It was not because of corporate entanglements, but because the law requires a 7-year separation from active service, a rule meant to preserve civilian oversight of the military. The point was deliberate. Waivers are rare, controversial, and historically scrutinized. The reminder served as context. This process is not symbolic. It exists to protect democratic control of the armed forces. Subscribe to stay with us as we unpack why that distinction matters more than most headlines explain. From there, Senator Tammy Duckworth took the floor and redirected the focus. She made clear that the hearing was not about abstract culture wars or theoretical debates, but about one thing: whether the nominee standing before them was prepared to lead on day one. Duckworth, a combat veteran herself, framed the moment as one closely watched by America's adversaries. Transitions in defense leadership are moments of vulnerability, she argued, and any perception of unpreparedness can carry real-world consequences. If you want reporting that connects Senate hearings to global security realities, subscribe and stay informed. Duckworth then moved into specifics, and this is where the hearing shifted from rhetoric to substance. She pointed out that Hegseth's largest leadership role involved roughly 200 people, a fraction of the scale of the Department of Defense. She highlighted financial mismanagement allegations from his past roles, including the need for forensic accountants after his departure. Then came the comparison that landed hard. The largest budget he ever managed was roughly $1.8 billion, more than 1,000 times smaller than the Pentagon's budget. This was not about shaming, it was about scale, complexity, and whether experience at one level prepares someone for another entirely. Subscribe if you want these numbers put into perspective, not just repeated. The questioning then drilled into audits, a topic that might sound dry, but is central to Pentagon reform. The Department of Defense has struggled for years to pass a full audit, and every Secretary of Defense promises progress. Duckworth pressed Hegseth on whether he had ever personally led an audit, not supported one, not talked about accountability, but actually led one. His inability to give a clear yes or no answer became the point. In leadership, especially at the Pentagon, clarity under pressure is not optional. If you appreciate coverage that explains why procedural questions can signal deeper leadership issues, be sure to subscribe. From finances, the focus shifted to international security. The Secretary of Defense does not just manage troops and budgets, they negotiate and sign critical agreements with allies around the world. Duckworth asked Hegseth to name major defense arrangements the Secretary leads: status of forces agreements, acquisition and cross-servicing agreements, regional security frameworks. His answers revealed limited direct experience in this arena. When he referenced NATO and Indo-Pacific allies, but confused regional groupings like ASEAN, it underscored the concern. This was not about trivia, it was about whether the nominee understands the architecture that underpins global military cooperation. Subscribe for deeper explanations of how these agreements shape U.S. power abroad. Finally, Duckworth closed with a warning about lowering standards for political convenience. She questioned whether personal loyalty to a president-elect should outweigh competence, preparation, and experience. In doing so, she reframed the hearing as a test of the Senate itself. Would it uphold the norms designed to protect national security, or bend them for expediency? What viewers can learn from this moment is that confirmation hearings are not theater, at least not always. If you want clear, contextual reporting that helps you understand not just what happened, but why it matters, subscribe to the channel now. We will continue breaking down these hearings, separating substance from spectacle, and giving you the tools to judge for yourself.